The miracle of the floating axe head, a story of faith, provision, and divine intervention. Setting the stage, the time of Elisha. The story of the floating axe head unfolds during the prophetic ministry of Elisha, a man known for his extraordinary miracles and deep connection with God. Elisha was the successor to the prophet Elijah, inheriting a double portion to his spirit, which enabled him to perform miracles that astonished the people of Israel. This period, set in the 9th century BC, was a time of spiritual turmoil and frequent conflict between the Israelites and surrounding nations. Yet, amid these challenges, God worked powerfully through Elisha to reveal his presence and power to his people, the sons of the prophets. In this context, there existed a group known as the Sons of the Prophets, a collective of devout men who study under prophets like Elisha. They were dedicated to learning God's ways, preserving his laws, and spreading his teachings among the people. These men formed prophetic communities in various locations, including Gilgal, Bethel, and Jericho, and were instrumental in maintaining the spiritual life of Israel during times when the nation frequently turned away from God. Elisha, as their mentor, was a spiritual father to these men. They looked to him for guidance, wisdom, and instruction, and in return, Elisha poured into them the knowledge of God's word and his mighty works. A growing community. The story begins with a problem. The community of the sons of the prophets had grown so large that their current dwelling place had become too small to accommodate them. This growth was a testament to the power and influence of Elisha's ministry. The prophetic community was thriving, drawing in more men eager to learn and serve. However, this blessing also brought practical challenges. Their living quarters were cramped, and there was a pressing need for expansion. Recognizing this need, the sons of the prophets approached Elisha with a solution. They proposed to go to the Jordan River, a place abundant with trees, and there cut down beams to build a larger dwelling. This plan was practical and proactive, showing their willingness to work together to solve their problem. Moreover, their request to Elisha to accompany them shows their deep respect for him, and their desire for his presence and blessing on their endeavor. The journey to the Jordan. Elisha agreed to their request, and the group set out for the Jordan River. The Jordan was not just a place of natural resources, but held deep spiritual significance in Israel's history. It was the river that the Israelites had crossed to enter the Promised Land under Joshua's leadership, and it had witnessed the miraculous crossing when the waters parted. It was also the site where Elijah had been taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, and where Elisha had performed his first miracle by parting the waters with Elijah's cloak. As the sons of the prophets began to fell trees by the river, the air was filled with the sounds of axes striking wood. There was a sense of purpose and camaraderie among them as they worked together to build a new home for their growing community. Each man contributed to the labor, their hearts aligned with the vision of expanding their place of study and worship. The crisis, a lost axe head. In the midst of this work, one of the sons of the prophets encountered a sudden crisis. As he was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head he was using flew off the handle and plunged into the waters of the Jordan. In an instant, what had been a routine task turned into a moment of panic and despair. The man cried out in alarm, "Alas, my master! It was borrowed." This cry revealed several layers of concern. Firstly, iron tools like axes were precious and expensive in ancient Israel. The loss of such a tool was significant, especially for a prophet who likely had limited resources. Secondly, the axe had been borrowed, which added to the gravity of the situation. In that culture, borrowing and lending were serious matters, and the man was now faced with the prospect of returning empty-handed and possibly in debt. His distress was not merely about the loss of the tool, but about the potential dishonor and financial burden it represented. Elisha's response. Faith in action. Elisha's response to the situation was calm and assured, reflecting his deep faith in God's provision and power. He did not scold the man for carelessness, nor did he express doubt about what could be done. Instead, he simply asked, "Where did it fall?" This question was practical, but it also demonstrated Elisha's confidence that God could and would intervene. The miracle's significance. This seemingly small miracle holds profound spiritual significance. It is a reminder of God's care for even the smallest details of our lives. The loss of an axe head might seem trivial in the grand scheme of things, especially when compared to some of the other miracles performed by Elisha, such as raising the dead or healing leprosy. Yet, God showed his concern for the prophet's predicament and provided a miraculous solution. The floating axe head also symbolizes God's power over nature and his ability to intervene in the physical world in ways that transcend our understanding. It demonstrates that God is not limited by the natural laws he created, but can supersede them to accomplish his purposes. Additionally, this miracle serves as a testament to the importance of faith and trust in God. The prophet who lost the axe head could have been consumed by worrying and fear, but instead, he turned to Elisha, God's representative, for help. Elisha, in turn, acted with calm faith, believing that God would provide a way out of the situation. This story encourages believers to bring their concerns to God, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem, and to trust that he is both willing and able to help. Conclusion. Lessons from the floating axe head. The story of the floating axe head, though brief, is rich with lessons for us today. It teaches us about God's provision, his concern for our needs, and his miraculous power. It encourages us to trust in God's ability to work in our lives, even in the most unexpected ways. For the sons of the prophets, this miracle would have been a powerful reminder of God's presence among them and his blessing on their community. It reinforced the idea that they were not alone in their labors and that God was with them, ready to assist and provide whenever needed. As we reflect on this story, we are reminded that no situation is too small or too hopeless for God's intervention. Whether we are facing a minor inconvenience or a major crisis, we can have confidence that God sees our needs and is both willing and able to help. Like the prophet who lost the axe head, we can cry out to God in our distress and trust that he will respond with power and grace. This expanded version of the story highlights the spiritual depth, cultural context, and timeless lessons contained within the miracle of the floating axe head, making it a story of faith and divine intervention that continues to inspire today.